Have you ever had one of those days where you feel like you're just running on autopilot? Well, in this explainer, we're going to dive into a book by Damian Cross called The Silent Dominion. And we're going to map out the invisible forces that might just be designing your day for you. So let's just start right here with this question. Really think about it for a second. Think about your day so far. How many of your actions were genuinely conscious choices? And how many were just, habits or reactions? That's the big idea we're going to unpack together. All right, so to really get how this all works, we first need to look at what the book calls the invisible blueprint. This is like the hidden framework that guides our actions when we're not even paying attention. Now, this isn't about some kind of obvious, forceful control. No, the Silent Dominion is way more subtle than that. It's a whole network of these little nudges. You'll find it in the way our apps are designed, and the way the news is framed, and even in the unspoken rules of society that kind of quietly steer our behavior. A really good way to think about it is like an invisible script for your day. So to make this idea less abstract, let's actually walk through a pretty familiar daily routine. We're going to see exactly where this script pops up. And where does it all begin? Well, for a whole lot of us, it starts with the very first thing we do when we wake up, the morning scroll. That first interaction with our phone, believe it or not, can set the entire tone for the rest of the day. That simple act of just reaching over and checking your phone, it's not so simple. These devices and the apps on them are literally designed to plug directly into our brain's reward system. Their number one goal is to grab your attention from the very first minute you're awake. And what's the best tool for the job? The social media feed, of course. And the second you start browsing, the algorithm takes the wheel. Its goal is super simple: keep you on the screen for as long as possible. And how does it do that? By creating what's called a filter bubble, feeding you content that it knows will spark a strong emotion. And yeah, a lot of the time, that emotion is outrage. What you're seeing on your feed isn't an objective view of reality. It's a version of reality curated specifically to keep you glued to the screen. So this effect, it just builds and builds throughout the day. It starts to expand beyond just social media and becomes this wider culture of what you could call manufactured distraction, especially in how we get our news and our entertainment. This whole thing creates a really powerful feedback loop, right? We're shown these sensational visuals to get an instant emotional reaction. We see conflicting talking heads yelling at each other, which creates this illusion that a real debate is happening. And of course, outrage-driven headlines make sure we keep clicking and stay engaged. Every single piece is designed for maximum emotional impact, not necessarily for deep understanding. And that really leads to the core argument here. The main job of this media cycle isn't always to inform you in a deep, meaningful way. It's to keep you hooked, to keep you emotional, and to keep you in a constant state of reaction to whatever the next thing is. And this conditioning, this training to just react and comply, it actually extends way beyond our screens. The book argues that many of the big foundational systems in our society are also structured in a way that encourages a similar kind of passive compliance. Think about it. The education system can sometimes end up rewarding standardization more than it does unique, critical thinking. Our political systems can often present what feels like a real choice, but no matter who you pick, you get similar underlying results. And even our healthcare models can sometimes prioritize just managing symptoms instead of empowering real, holistic wellness. This quote from the book is just a perfect example from education. A student quickly learns that following the rubric, complying, gets rewarded more than true out-of-the-box thinking. And that subtly teaches a lesson that we carry right into our adult lives. It's often just easier and safer to conform than it is to challenge the system. Okay, so we've kind of mapped out the problem here. But the book definitely doesn't just leave us there. It offers a way to actually break the pattern. This is the big pivot, the shift from just complying to having real, personal agency. So this slide lays out the two different paths we can take. We can live what's called a programmed day, where we're reactive, kind of scattered, and driven by all these external things. Or we can choose what the book calls a sovereign day, which is proactive, intentional, and guided by our own internal values. The whole goal is to consciously shift from being the puppet to being the one holding the map. So how do we actually make that shift? Well, it's a two-step process. The first step is just awareness, simply seeing these patterns for what they are. And the second step is taking deliberate, conscious action to choose a different path, even if it's in a really small way. And that brings us to our final section, living awake by design. This is all about creating your own design for your day instead of just passively accepting the one that's been sort of created for you. The book lays out 4 really clear, actionable strategies. Instead of reacting to your phone all day long, schedule specific times to check it. Instead of scrolling through an endless, angry newsfeed, pick a couple of trusted sources and just visit them once a day. Build some self-reliance by learning a practical skill. And, maybe most importantly, actively go look for ideas that challenge your worldview, not just confirm it. Now, let's be super clear here. This is not about becoming a hermit and totally rejecting modern life. Not at all. It's about learning how to navigate the world we actually live in, with intention, to be the one holding the map and choosing the destination, not just being a passenger along for the ride. And this brings us to the final, really powerful idea from the book. This isn't some finish line you cross and then you're done. Reclaiming your attention, your autonomy, your freedom, it's a daily practice. Every single conscious choice you make reinforces your own personal sovereignty. So, I'll leave you with this final question to think about. Looking at your own daily routine, at your own invisible script, what's just one small pattern, one little habit that you could consciously decide to change starting today?